Training camp brought to you by Martin Harris Construction continues for the Vegas Golden Knights. Welcome to the Training Camp Bulletin presented by NextGen. High above ringside at City National Arena, Dan Duva, Gary Lawless with you. The fourth day of on-ice activity for the Vegas Golden Knights. Gary Lawless, hello.
I was wondering if you were going to say high above ringside.
I felt like I had to.
Yes,
just for old time's
with
sake.
us together, we do the radio broadcast together, and that is how you start every broadcast. And,
yeah. I didn't say it yesterday because, to be honest, we're not that high above ringside. We're not at ringside, but believe it or not, Thursday we will be truly high above ringside at T-Mobile Arena.
When we had this discussion yesterday, Jack Edwards says, I don't know if he says high above ringside, but he says high above ice level. I'm not sure what he says, but is this, where does it come from?
Johnny Most, the legendary Boston Celtics broadcaster, would have a not courtside play-by-play position, but at the old Boston Garden, he had a raised position, which wasn't terribly uncommon for basketball in those old venues. So he would say high above courtside. And
where the Celtics are ready to do basketball battle, is that what he would say?
Yeah, there was a little bit more to it. Yeah,
uh-huh.
So I spent some time in New England with baseball, and that caught on high above diamond side baseball, and of course high above ringside. I'm not the only one who says it.
No, it's fantastic, but you say it best.
There you go. So we digress already. That took long. You could see just a moment ago there are some Golden Knights that have taken the ice, and it's a little bit different today, Gary. This is not going to be the hour-and-a-half, 2-hour on-ice session that we've seen the first few days. The schedule's a little bit different today.
Yes, this is, in essence, a morning skate. The Golden Knights will have a controlled scrimmage at T-Mobile Arena tonight. Pete DeBoer talked a little bit about that yesterday. I think it's a chance to kind of go through the game day rhythm. And as he pointed out, Alex Pietrangelo, other than a tour of the home team dressing room at T-Mobile Arena, hasn't been in it. And
he doesn't know where to park.
So this is an opportunity for him to go through the whole game day process that he will do in earnest next Thursday when the Golden Knights host the Anaheim Ducks to kick off their NHL 2021 season. That's weird to say 2021 because it's all in 21, but the NHL is calling it the 2021 season, so that's what we're going to call it too.
2020 is in the rearview mirror.
Kind of.
There's something that I wanted to mention based on what Pete DeBoer had to say yesterday, because we think of Pete as, number one, a head coach in the sport of ice hockey. We know about his background, a law degree, but it seems to me, based on his comments yesterday, perhaps event manager should fall into his resume, because he said the most challenging part about this camp for the coaches has been the logistics of working with the 3 hours that the team has with the group. That's the limit, 3 hours per day. So I wonder what you think about that, Gary, and having the coaches try to figure out how to maximize the time that they have in this bizarre camp.
Well, it's interesting. One of the things they've done is they've used the exact same schedule that they used in the summer, in Phase 3, prior to the return to play, prior to the playoffs and the bubbles in Toronto and Edmonton. The Golden Knights they've used that exact same format. So for the players, it was easy to get into that rhythm, and the coaches, they would have been able to sort of lean on that experience that they had from back in July when they were getting ready to go for the postseason. So I think that's been a big factor for them. It's interesting. The length of time that players spend at a facility is often dictated by a collective bargaining agreement. For instance, in the NFL, it's a lot longer. Guys are there all day. The Canadian Football League, which I am familiar with, and Dave Gaucher is falling off of his chair over in the office right now, as I mentioned it, it's 3 hours there. And as a result, players they don't make a lot of money there, so they have second jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But guys come from the NFL and they get into that 3-hour rhythm and they're like, wow, this is great. I can go play golf. I can go, fix the bathroom or paint the ceiling in the bedroom, whatever you want to do.
Pick up the kids at school and all those things,
stuff.
grocery store, sure.
The players here are, they're getting used to that. They're in that rhythm as well. That will change when the regular season starts, and there's a little more, regularity to all of this.
That's a good point, Gary. Given all the precautions and the measures in place, what will the day-to-day routine look like as compared to a normal NHL season? Will there be too many differences for a player's routine?
I don't believe so. There'll be, the schedule is going to be different because, so for instance, next week Vegas plays Anaheim at home on Thursday and then plays Anaheim at home again on Saturday. And all of the schedule is in those 2-game sets, and that's because they want to cut down on the travel. And, they'll fly to places the day before, but and you've got the schedule in front of you there. It's not that often that they go on the road for a really long stretch. There's a couple of them, but a lot of this is cut up into 2- and 4-game pieces, and I think that's kind of the biggest difference for the players this year. But yeah, they'll be, and I would also say because they're so busy and it's compacted, I don't know if there'll be a lot of morning skates. I think, and there won't be a lot of practices either. This is going to be, I think Pete DeBoer will, he's lucky that he's got a veteran team that is, a Stanley Cup contender. When they don't have a game, I won't be surprised if they're told to stay home.
There's a 3-day break at the end of this month, the 29th, 30th, and 31st of January. But leading up to that, it's games every other day.
Yeah.
And it continues as such through February. Then you've got, and we've heard about, it's not official, the potential of the Golden Knights and the Avalanche playing a game outside at Lake Tahoe. That's not official yet, but you see the schedule there. There's a few days that could accommodate that logistically. Then when you get into March and April, that's the gauntlet, because not only do you have every other day, you mix in back-to-backs. At least the first, say, 5-6 weeks of the season, you don't have back-to-backs, but then it seems like every week there's going to be a back-to-back. You're going to be playing 4 games in a week.
So you and I love to have these conversations. If you're Pete DeBoer and you know that you've got that, like Robin Leonard or Marc-Andre Fleury can't play all those games in March and April.
Right.
That you need both guys at that point in time. So what do you do early, Dan? Do you go straight rotation because you know you're going to be in a rotation a lot of the time later on? Do you go with one guy to get him to see if he's hot and get him rolling? Like those decisions that DeBoer has to make. Like coaching this year, I think, and those, like you called it an event manager, like that managing of the schedule and of the season is a huge part of what Pete DeBoer will do this year. And when we get to late July and all this is all wrapped up, there will be one coach who's getting fit for a ring. And we'll look and we'll say, that decision that he made to do that, to mix in his taxi squad early so that all of those guys were getting game action, the teams that take advantage of their waiver ineligible players and bring them back and forth, the team that had 2 goalies and was able to be in a position where they were both playing excellent hockey when they needed them both. Those will be the decisions that we're talking about. Hopefully, when you and I are in the back of a convertible rolling down Las Vegas Boulevard as part of a parade, I'll be able to look at Dan as the wind blows through my hair and
I was thinking the same thing. Roll down the windows. Let the wind blow back your hair.
I'll be wearing a hat.
Okay. Speaking of goaltenders, Mike Rosati, happy birthday to Golden Knights goaltending coach Mike Rosati.
Rosie, as he's known amongst his friends.
Do you
Great
think
guy.
there's been a prank for his birthday already, or is it yet to come?
So, as everyone knows, or as everyone should know, Marc-Andre Fleury, the king of pranks around here. And Mike
There
Rosati
they are. So they're in the same frame.
Yeah.
It's almost like Rosati doesn't want to turn his back to Fleury because who knows what might happen.
And I wonder who, to me, that would be fascinating. Would Fleury get Oscar Dansk and Robin Leonard to help out? Would he, engage them as elves to his prankster Santa. Lots of good stuck in. Robin Leonard and Oscar Dance do not exactly look like elves.
No.
Flower could play a pretty good elf. He's got pointy ears.
And he's got that smirk, too.
Impish grin.
There you go. That's it. Happy 53rd birthday to Mike Rosati. And we got to look at Marc-Andre Fleury sporting those gold pads. I wonder, Gary, do you wear the gold pads with the gold jersey, or is that gold overload?
Oh, no. No such thing as gold overload.
That's what I thought, too, but I figured I'd consult your fashion advice.
No, I think it would be, so you got to talk to Nidy and Gosher about that. Mm-hmm. But, no, absolutely all gold.
Yeah, and you can get that gold jersey, as we know, at the Arsenal here at City National Arena. They've got them down at the Armory at T-Mobile Arena, and, of course, they're online at vegasteamstore.com. I can't wait to see those in action.
My daughter got one for Christmas, and she's probably not wearing hers until things get rolling, and until she can watch a game probably on television to start, but hopefully get to a game. She's excited to wear hers. She hasn't picked a number yet.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Well, she's 21. Cody Eakin was her man. So now she's Colasar, Glass, Reeves, and Stone are all in the conversation.
I seem to notice a
There's
correlation there.
Yes,
yeah, I wonder what that might be.
My daughter is born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and the Manitobans are close to her heart.
I tried to say I'd never heard of Brandon, Manitoba yesterday, and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth before I started laughing. We have a lot of connections to that neck of the woods. Speaking of VGK Worldwide, and it is worldwide, greetings again to Fredericton, New Brunswick. Brendan tuned in once more from Freddie Beach.
I was just about to say, one of the great nicknames in American Hockey League lore is Freddie Beach. Fredericton known as Freddie Beach.
Have you been to the beach in Fredericton?
I have been. We used to stay in Fredericton. My father is from Prince Edward Island. And when we would drive there every summer, Freddie Beach was, if we drove to Montreal the first night, the second leg of the drive was all the way to PEI. We had to make the last ferry, 5 p.m. ferry from Edmundston, New Brunswick, to across the way to Prince Edward Island. So
great mussels, of course.
Yes.
Mussels with 2 S's.
Lobsters, lots of good stuff. Anyways, or we would drive all the way from Peterborough, Ontario to Fredericton and stay in Fredericton, and then the short drive would be the next day. That was my dad would drive the whole way by himself, no relief.
If you don't know where Fredericton is, you probably know where the state of Maine might be.
Yes.
Just keep on going, and you'll get up to New Brunswick and Fredericton there along the Atlantic coast and the Maritime. So hi again to Brendan. We seem to talk about Fredericton every time we do this, so we appreciate you tuning in. You get lots of airtime with us. And another one of our VGK Worldwide watchers is Mr. KB, once again tuning in just after tea time across the pond in England. So Mr. KB, thanks for being with us.
What did you shoot, KB? Mr. KB? Oh, tea time.
Tea time is in
tea time with a raised pinky. I was thinking tea time as in
no, the sun is down across the pond.
Okay.
That sounds. I mean, obviously we know where Gary's mind is here, out on the links. I don't have my tea on the desk. I left my other beverage canister at home today, as you may have seen. I enjoy coffee. I enjoy tea.
I'm more of a coffee guy.
Yeah. Tea is good for the vocal cords, honey, those kinds of things, and I probably don't drink it enough, so maybe Mr. KB, if in fact he has enjoyed his tea and crumpets today. I like the crumpets, actually, as well. That's a good excuse.
This would actually be a great VGK trivia question. What fruit juice does Dan Duva prefer on game day?
What fruit juice? Do I know the answer to this question?
Pineapple juice.
That's right, I do.
It's good for the vocal cords.
That's right. That's right. If it's there, I'll enjoy it. Who knows why, but they say that the pineapple juice is good for the pipes. Who knows?
I know Dan's game day routine a little
better than me, apparently. And also, Cheyenne is on Facebook watching from aforementioned Manitoba. So thanks for tuning in on VGK Worldwide.
I hear it's lovely there. I hear it's like someone was joking, texting me this morning that they're going to head out and play golf in Carmen, Manitoba.
Oh.
Yes, apparently there's no ice on the ponds in Carmen.
Well, yeah, you got to take advantage of the conditions you've got. Ice for hockey and on and on and on. Golf for whether you're in Manitoba or England, apparently.
You've got some camp questions for me, don't you?
We do. This is the Training Camp Bulletin presented by NextGen. Martin Harris Construction is the presenting sponsor of 2020-2021 Training Camp. And we talked a little bit about Pete DeBoer's approach evaluating this camp compared to the return to play camp over the summer. Similarities, differences. What do you think, Gary?
Well, first of all, I think that the advantage that they've just have established things so well here in Vegas that the players, they stay here. They stay here. A lot of them stay here year round, and as a result, they were able to start some structured skates around November 30th, and they were in small groups, but there was almost a full complement of guys here. And of the players that were here for all of those skates, they were able to get in. If you took in every skate, you got in something like 21 structured skates prior to the start of this training camp. So two things come to mind for Pete DeBoer. I asked him this yesterday. If you compare the pace and level of this camp versus the one you had prior to Phase 3 and the return to play, he said it's very comparable in pace and in fitness. In the one area where it's above is the knowledge of systems. And he, the fact that when the pause took place in the middle of March, he'd only been coaching for a number of weeks.
Right, that's the other comparison. This to the summer, and then the summer to January.
Yes, yeah. Well, so now that whole time they were in the bubble playing in the playoffs, they were using his systems, and so now it's like, okay, we already know what how we're going to play. Really the only guy that is getting this new is Pietrangelo, and he's a veteran. He's going to figure it out real quickly. So they're at a really high pace in terms of how they understand the systems. Plus, they're in great shape and they're hungry. So, like I noticed yesterday during the second half of the practice when they had a scrimmage, they were flying. Now, when there's no contact, when it's a no-hitter, everybody's fearless. So you cut to the middle of the ice at a different pace than you normally would. You're not looking around. You're just, boom, you're going because your own teammate isn't going to step into you and lay you out. That being said, it was still really fast.
Was that a knob save from Fleury there with Colasar in the way? That's exciting stuff.
Colasar looks
screening,
great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You also talked with Kelly McCrimmon recently, and we've heard from Pete DeBoer on a daily basis speaking with the media and his perspective with the on-ice activity. What does the general manager, Kelly McCrimmon, have to say about what he's seen?
Yeah, he's been happy with the way camp has gone, and I think he, likes the way that things were structured. The fact that you have two pads here, and you can have one half of the roster skating and practicing on the other half, and the other half on the other rink, and then bring them all together for the second half of practice for a controlled scrimmage. It's an advantage, and it's they got to get up to a real high rate by the time that season starts, and so playing a little bit against one another has been real effective, and they've kept big numbers and will keep pretty big numbers for a couple days more before they get down to a smaller. I would imagine next week, if they practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those numbers will be that'll be a lot closer to the 20 players or so that are on your active roster and the guys that are on your taxi squad.
World Junior Championship and those players.
Yeah.
Peyton Krebs, Caden Korzak will be, from what we understand, traveling to Las Vegas within the next couple of days, quarantine procedures, etc.
7 days they've got to quarantine.
And whether it's those two guys with the Golden Knights, we were talking yesterday, Mike McKenna and I talking about Trevor Zegras, Anaheim Ducks first-round pick, hero for Team USA. might you see him against the Golden Knights in a week or so? I don't know if the timing will quite work out there, but
well, Zegras is already there. A bunch of the USA players that play that are Kings property and Ducks property all flew together on a private jet, right from Edmonton to California. So they so they would have already have started their 7-day quarantine. So Zegras, I would imagine, he for sure will be available to the Ducks next Thursday. Whether or not Dallas Eakins decides to put him in his lineup, that's another question.
And so I have that exact question for you, Gary, in terms of those two Golden Knights prospects in Krebs and Korczak. Do you have a sense of where the organization is, working them into training camp / game action, taxi squad? We know it's a bizarre season with many questions, but is there a feeling for what the organization would prefer to do?
Well, so those players, as of right now, I believe, are not eligible for the taxi squad or the American League because they are Canadian Hockey League players, and the NHL and the Canadian Hockey League have an agreement. They are both eligible to play for the Golden Knights. You know, they have to be, I don't know if Korczak is signed. I believe he is, actually. I know Krebs is signed. So they could play for the Golden Knights, absolutely. I don't think they could be on the taxi squad, and I don't think they could be with the Henderson Silver Knights in the American League. Now, that could all change if the Canadian Hockey League, they're Western Hockey League players.
Right.
If it's determined that they're not going to be able to play this year and they cannot provide a place for those players to play, well, then the NHL and the CHL will, they'll get together and they'll negotiate something and they'll hammer out an agreement where those kids are eligible for this season to play in the American League or play on the taxi squad. So where are they going to end up? I can't tell you because there's I know it's not 2020, but we are still in the time of COVID right now, and lots of things remain unknown.
And you wonder how close Krebs is compared to, let's just say, Trevor Zegras, who very high expectations for him. We saw what he's done. He's got the moxie, and the Ducks are not in the same position as Stanley Cup favorites in the way that the Golden Knights are, and you wonder there might be an appetite to get him NHL games off the bat versus, say, a Peyton Krebs. He was close, Gary. We remember he was right on the cusp of playing in a playoff game over the summer. You wonder, okay, is he now ready? He's been playing these competitive games for Team Canada. And then, where might he fit in the lineup? He was playing right wing, his third position for Team Canada. He's a natural center, and then because of his handedness would be a left wing. So there's versatility, too.
I would say an injury to the wrong skilled player with the Golden Knights, and Pete DeBoer will say, I'd like to see 18. Is that the number that Krebs wears with Vegas? That's what he wore with Team Canada. I think he wears 9 in junior. Anyways, that will be a factor because I think that Pete DeBoer really likes the player. Pete DeBoer was ready to use him in the playoffs, and that skill, that vision, that ability to see the ice, to create, there's not many guys like that. And he's fast. The pace won't be a problem for him at this level. He's a little light, I think, still, and that's something that could be a problem. But listen, how would Peyton Krebs look between Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone? I think he'd look fine. And I think he might even excel. Now, that would mean that there was some pretty serious injury issues for the Golden Knights. But, depth of that nature is hard to come by.
You want these guys to play. Normally, the Canadian Hockey League, the American Hockey League is starting. Canadian Hockey League before the NHL regular season, the American Hockey League within a week, simply to allow those teams to have their own training camp. This is bizarre because the NHL is starting, whereas the AHL and the Canadian Hockey League later on, after the NHL starts. So the timing is a little screwy. You want these guys to play.
100%. Peyton Krebs has to play this year and practice and, continue to get better. Now, listen, if the Canadian Hockey League isn't playing and Peyton Krebs is in Vegas or Henderson and is able to train with the strength and conditioning guys that are here and get the nutrition that's available here, We've seen what it did for Zach Whitecloud. We've seen what it's done for Cody Glass. They're really good at their jobs, and that could kind of accelerate the development of Peyton Krebs.
You're watching the Training Camp Bulletin presented by NextGen. Alongside Gary Lawless, I'm Dan Duva. Golden Knights with what we expect to be a shorter on-ice session today, morning skate mode, because there will be a scrimmage this evening trying to get the guys in a game day feel, not only in terms of on the ice, but the logistics of going to T-Mobile Arena, being in the locker room and all of that. That's later this evening. So this is kind of a morning skate mode, not a full training camp session that might last, we've seen an hour and a half plus. Gary, we addressed a couple of organizational questions. Obviously the goaltending and how Robin Lehner, Marc-Andre Fleury will be deployed. We've just talked about the prospects, how they might be integrated. What other questions are top of mind for the organization going into the year?
Well, it's been interesting. You know, I think Cody Glass is eventually going to play with Stone and Pacioretty. He hasn't played in a year. So to me, there's been a real smart decision. Number one, I like Chandler Stevenson between Pacioretty and Stone. I don't have a problem with that issue, with that alignment. But, you know, if you had to put Glass in there right off the bat, after not having played for a year, it's a lot of pressure on him. And, you know, if it doesn't work out right away, does it affect his confidence? Instead, he's down on the third line. He's playing with really good players. He's playing with Alex Tuch, which is, Alex Tuch is probably loving the fact that he's got Cody Glass on his line. That feels like a top six line. Alex will like that because he can produce. And the other thing is they're going to get easier minutes. So, I think it gives Vegas some balance. It gives them some depth. And it gives Cody Glass the opportunity to really get up and running. And then, who knows, a slump or an injury, and then he gets popped up between in that number one spot between Stone and Pacioretty, and maybe he really takes off. So I think that this has been an astute decision. I didn't think of it. My thought was put him between Stone and Pacioretty. And then as soon as I saw the alignment they had, I kind of thought to myself, this is way smarter, and that's why I'm not a coach.
Not yet. Glass as the centerpiece of that discussion. The thought that we brought up yesterday, I'd be curious your take on this, Gary. Cody Glass is the centerpiece of that discussion, but you mentioned Alex Tuch. Given the great success Alex Tuch had in the postseason, would you not want to surround Alex with players that would allow him to build upon what he did in the return to play?
Well, he is with players like that.
Right.
Those are the players that he played with. I think it was Stevenson and
it was Nick
and
Waugh, Nick Cousins.
A combination of guys. So, having him with Glass, I think there's an upgrade in the creativity right away at that center spot.
I wonder if that idea was attractive. Hey, we could put Glass here, could put Glass there, but let's also think about the Alex Tuch end of things, and maybe that had an impact on the decision.
Well, I just really like that line because, number one, Waugh can take a lot of those draws. Waugh can do a lot of the down-low spade work in the defensive zone, and then Glass can be the centerman in the offensive zone and be creative and find Tuch who can finish and spring Tuch who can create some odd man rush situations. There's a whole bunch to Pete DeBoer and Steve Spott and Ryan McGill and Ryan Craig. They had some time to think, and clearly they put it to use.
Again, training camp presented by NextGen, checking in with VGK Worldwide. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, across the pond on Facebook is Guion, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Guion is spelled Gwion. I apologize sincerely. I'm going to guess I didn't say that right, but Guion is tuned in from Wales, so we're popular in the United Kingdom.
I'd like to go to Wales. I'd like to see how the Welshmen, how they carry themselves.
There's a great bakery that make these Welsh biscuits with black currant.
This is just too much. It always comes crumpets, a great Welsh bakery.
The Scottish butter cookies are fantastic, too. It's really a trend.
Folks, if you ever see Dan on the road, he'll have a little white bag. It'll be crumpled and it's been opened and closed a number of times. And in that bag, it's like the black box. There, Dan's dainties are in there, which he...
Dainties? I prefer pastries rather than dainties, but yes.
You prefer them both.
The Italian pastries most often, but I'm an equal opportunity baked goods enjoyer.
He is indeed.
And so thank you for tuning in from Wales. If you have any recommendations on those Welsh biscuits, I will gladly take them. And from across the pond to across the street, Daniel is over at the Station Casino offices. Thank you for checking in, Daniel, but I suppose you're on the clock here. Should you be maybe working over at Station Casinos?
Daniel, unlike some of us, can multitask. He's got 2 computer screens up right now.
He's walking the floor, perhaps, with
one of them
his
he's setting
device.
the odds for a big horse race coming up or something like that, or a football game.
Could be.
And on the other one, he's checking in on us. Thanks for checking in, Daniel.
These are the last 3 on the ice. So these are the folks really putting in the work. Rosati on his birthday, spending extra time out there as the Golden Knights prepare for a scrimmage later this evening. That's why it was a shorter morning skate-like of atmosphere. We did not see many of the regulars, most of the prospects, the AHL guys, but it's 40 guys in camp, so you're going to see 2 teams. Everybody who's been in camp is going to be part of tonight's scrimmage, I would imagine. 4 goalies, and then obviously the remaining being skaters.
The other big issue that kind of hasn't resolved itself yet, knock on some form of wood, is the salary cap issue for the Golden Knights, because they're pushed right up against the cap and probably over it right now. Now, it resolve itself. Was there going to be an injury in camp that somehow, created some space for them, or are they going to have to make some important and difficult decisions next week when they need to be compliant next Thursday? Like, that's got to happen. So will they have to waive a guy? They'll have to get some players on that taxi squad. Will they have to waive one of their regulars? A guy in their bottom 6 forward group, or a guy in their bottom 3 or bottom 4 defenders. I'm going deep into the top 8 guys. Will they have to put one of those guys on waivers? What will happen if they do? There's some interesting things to unfold in terms of the commerce of the game.
Couple more questions for you, Gary, as we wrap things up here on the Training Camp Bulletin presented by NextGen. I want to first go back to one of our watchers on Twitch. We've had great following on Twitch, which, again, was new to me, and it's fantastic. So thank you for joining us on Twitch. We appreciate the record numbers from that particular feed. And this is from Gila Monster Hockey on Twitch. Gila Monster Hockey has a question, Gary.
Yeah.
And the question is, which 2-game sets are you most excited to see and call during the regular season? Is it Vegas, Colorado? Is it Vegas, San Jose? And remember, on 2 occasions, the Knights will play the same team 4 times in a row, every other series being 2 in a row.
Well, for me, it's Colorado and St. Louis. Listen, there is another team in this division. I think if you had to fill out your playoff chart tomorrow, Vegas, St. Louis, and Colorado take the first 3 spots in this West division, and then the 4th spot is up for grabs. And Arizona and Minnesota look to be in that next group, and then LA, San Jose, and Anaheim in another group. So it will be interesting to see which of those other teams, whether it's Arizona or Minnesota, kind of emerge and kind of announce themselves as the likely 4th team in that playoff group, and that'll be interesting to see how they play against them. I do not think you want to finish 2nd or 3rd in this division.
St. Louis, Gary, is a Golden Knights opponent on the 26th and 28th at T-Mobile Arena. That's the first time that the Knights will face the Blues, and of course Pietrangelo against his old club. And so that, it's weird. That is the 4th series of the year. Ducks 2, then Coyotes 2 at home, Coyotes 2 on the road, Then the fourth series is St. Louis, the fourth pair of games, St. Louis, as mentioned, 26th, 28th of January. And then we talked about the 4 games in a row against Colorado. That's February 14th, 16th, 20th, and 22nd. So it's going to be Golden Knights and Avalanche for more than a week that we're going to be talking about that matchup. It'll feel like a playoff series with those, the way the schedule is built. I wonder, Gary, with all of the games against the traditional rivals, because Colorado, St. Louis, those are not divisional opponents for Vegas, but they happen to be good. Normally, rivalries build between the better teams. More is on the line. You mentioned the Sharks and the Kings, perhaps not in that group right now, but they are, and I'm going to use quotes here, historical rivals because they have been rivals. Because of the number of games, could those heat up?
Well, and San Jose is interesting because they still have some pretty good players on that squad. They could be ready for a bounce back.
Yeah.
They could be, they could move into that group with Arizona and Minnesota and surprise some people. I don't think LA's poised for that right now. I think that they're kind of, listen, anytime you put out a roster that has Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar on it, you have a chance to make that game dangerous. So, and then the fact that they're going to play each team 8 times, like it just goes to reason. Vegas isn't sweeping anybody. I don't expect to see any season series sweeps in the West Division. I just don't. And then once you beat a team once, you get a little bit of confidence. And I think Ryan Reeves is going to be a very important player this year because I think there are going to be nights when other teams are going to be like, we're going to drag this into the muck and we're going to cause trouble. And if you think we're going to make it easy for you in these 8 games against us this year, no. If we can't beat you on the scoreboard, we're going to wallop you. We're going to leave a mark. We're going to hit you. And then will Ryan Reeves have to, I said earlier on one of these streams, or maybe it was on SLNG podcast, there has to be an over-under on when Ryan Reeves and Evander Kane fight this year.
Yeah.
They're not.
I think you put it at 4. I'd take the under.
Yeah, they're not going to play each other 8 times and not get underneath. It's preseason for me as well. Underneath each one another's skin, I'm just going to stop. Yeah. They're going to bug each other.
Well, there is room for multiple rivals.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know Red Sox, Yankees, Canadians, Maple Leafs, North Carolina Duke. There are those one-on-one rivalries, but there is enough room for multitasking here, which actually Daniel has gotten back to us, Gary. He says that he is an expert multitasker. So no surprise with the great folks over at Station Casino. So thank you again, Daniel. And with all of that, maybe he's not only tuned into our NextGen training camp bulletin here, but perhaps he's multitasking and reading the Golden Knights training camp diaries. Is that possible? Because that's brought to us by, of course, Station Casinos.
I'll tell you what, if he's not, he's making a mistake because the author of these bulletins, these diaries.
Yes, the diaries.
Our man Gordo.
Yes.
Been excellent work.
Thank you, Gordo.
I've been reading them.
Yeah, we've got you covered in any number of ways. The stream here brought to us by NextGen on the Training Camp Bulletin, the VGK Diaries, and again, Station Casinos, the presenting sponsor for that. Jack in the Box presenting the VGK Daily Podcast. Darren Millard puts out every morning. Great stuff. It's everything you need to know in like 10 minutes. Good stuff. And I was interested, and that's a good transition, Gary, to kind of wrap things up, hearing on the podcast that Darren put out this morning, some of the players talking about the structure. And we heard from Braden McNabb. We heard Riley Smith. These are the guys who've been around. They're cerebral players. They recognize the importance of, I would think most hockey players think structure is boring, right? You want to go out and play. But there's a recognition of we've got to take care of that because we've got to buy in. Those were Braden McNabb's words.
So it's like jazz, okay?
I'm going to buy into this analogy. Go for it.
Jazz, you eventually go all over the place. But in order to, you have to have your fundamentals and your structure. You may not read the music chart and go off the chart, but you have to be able to play all the right notes first. So in order to give you that great solo, you have to have your fundamentals and that structure. And that, to me, hockey is, it's like basketball, right? There's a plan in place, but then it's all about one-on-one battles in space, and it's all about capitalizing on someone else's mistake. So there is great improvisation within. You don't improvise really in in football, right? You've got a place to be. You're there, the ball arrives, and then you improvise once you're in open field. But soccer, similar in many ways, that improvisation in sport, it only comes when you're like Connor McDavid doesn't do what Connor McDavid does if he can't skate and do things with the puck at that great high rate. So fundamentals are key.
Wrapping things up here, again, Golden Knights have a scrimmage tonight at T-Mobile Arena, off tomorrow, then back to a normal training camp mode for Saturday as the schedule evolves. Game 1 is a week from today. New hour-long pregame show on the Vegas Golden Knights radio network. Gary and I will have the play-by-play shortly after 7 on Thursday. Knights and Ducks, Dave and Shane, and the rest of the crew over on AT&T Sportsnet. Ready, partner? This is down the stretch here in training camp. We got to get ready for that first game.
Well, the home games, we will be at our regular perch at T-Mobile Arena, and I'm really excited to call a game from there again, to be in the same building, to hear those sounds. The road games, we're going to start from our studio here at City National Arena and call them off of monitors, but we don't know how long that will last and if that will change this season. Hopefully it does, because if that happens, it means we're getting back towards normalcy in all kinds of walks of life, that's really what we all want. But next Thursday, high above ringside. Can't wait to be there with my man Dan Duva.
For real. Stretch of 56 regular season games. It'll take us from January 14th to May 8th, and who knows after that. But thank you for tuning in today. Gary, thanks for checking in here. It's nice to be back with you.
Yes. Dan is running out to what's your favorite pastry place in Summerlin?
I've got a list.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to alienate any of them.
He's not going to say.
No,
Doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
No, but I would like to thank Martin Harris Construction for presenting training camp, and of course NextGen for presenting this training camp bulletin. Stay tuned for additional updates as the Golden Knights training camp continues. The scrimmage tonight, off tomorrow, back in action on Saturday, but content all over the place for your hockey enjoyment. Thanks to Jenna, Andrew, and Gordo behind the scenes. For Gary Lawless, Dan Duva saying so long and good day.